Zimbabwe's investigative journalist Hopewell Chinono has had a better day than many this year when he did not only get back his passport from the High Court yesterday, but he also got back his lead lawyer, Beatrice Mtetwa. Chinono appealed to the High Court to have a Harare Magistrate's Court decision blocking Beatrice Mtetwa from representing him in Parliament. He also applied to the same court to have his passport released so he could travel to outside the country for medical attention. He joins us now. Very good evening to you, and thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Chinono.
Thank you very much for having me on your program.
So obviously I'd imagine some more light at the end of a very long, dark tunnel. What's on the cards for you now that this has happened?
Well, it's two battles that I've managed to win out of many that we've lost before the magistrate, Ngoni Nduna, who was removed and disqualified yesterday by the High Court. My lawyer had been removed in August, Beatrice Mtetwa, and it had been done illegally because there was no law or power given to the magistrate to do so. And I also applied, as you mentioned in your introduction, for my passport to go to London to get some medical attention, but the judge said I cannot go to London. I can only go to South Africa, and they restricted my movement in South Africa to only Gauteng.
And I want to talk about that. Your reporting conditions, those have been suspended for 21 days. So how does that affect your seeking of specialist medical care? Does that mean you would have to be restricted to a certain amount of time?
Yes, it's only restricted to 21 days, and it's only restricted to Gauteng in South Africa. So if I were to go and get a cardiologist in Cape Town, that order does not allow me to go to Cape Town. I will have to go back to the High Court to say that I've been to South Africa and I found a cardiologist, but not in Gauteng, but in Cape Town.
Is there any particular reason for dictating to you where you can find your medical specialist in South Africa?
I do not understand the logic behind it, because the idea of holding one's passport is that they are a flight risk and they might leave the country. So if you allow me to fly out of South Africa, it means whilst I'm in South Africa, I can go anywhere in the world if I wanted to be a flight risk, which I'm not going to be. So I did not understand the logic, but I accepted it. And I will go to South Africa and seek treatment within Gauteng and come back home, because really and truly, the case that I'm facing is frivolous. It is a trumped-up charge, and there's no reason for me to run away from something.
And let's talk about that. What is the effect now of having Beatrice Mtetwa back on your team?
It's a brilliant thing that happened for us. The whole legal team is happy to have her come back to lead the legal team. Beatrice Mtetwa is a brilliant lawyer. That's the reason why they removed her from the team. They understood that she's a brilliant lawyer. When she's there in court wearing a gown, doing a thing as a lawyer, she's just brilliant, and I'm happy to have her back.
Have any more substantial evidence or charges of inciting public violence being put to you?
What has just been put to me are tweets, the original tweets that were put to me when I was first arrested. One of the tweets says that elections will not bring freedom to Zimbabwe. The police and the state say that the tweet means that I wanted to remove the government of Zimbabwe. It's an inference. It's not beyond reasonable doubt. And they also say that by saying so, I'm stopping investors from coming to Zimbabwe. I don't know how and why the police would have anything to do with investors. But those are the charges that are before me. That's why I call them frivolous. They're meant to harass me, to instill the fear in God in other journalists that if you do like what Hopewell Chinono is doing, this is what we'll do to you. I spent 45 days in prison without trial. That was a travesty. It was unfair. There's a guy who had more than 50 counts of armed robbery. He was on the run for 20 years. And when the police caught him, there was a firefight. And he was given a bail of equivalent of about $60 US.
Yeah,
so that shows that, you know, there's more to it than just a legal case.
So very briefly, having said that, do you feel safe in Zimbabwe?
Well, I'm as safe as the Lord wants me to be safe. If there's anything that they want to do to me, there's nothing that can stop them from doing so. But it's a tragedy that as a journalist, I feel intimidated by the state, and the state abuses its power by arresting me. The second arrest was on the 3rd of November, again on another frivolous charge where I'd exposed corruption. The job of journalists is to go and investigate and expose corruption so that the public can interface with public affairs with the knowledge of what is happening in their society. But it's becoming very difficult to do so in Zimbabwe under this regime of Emmerson Mnangagwa.
Thank you so much for speaking to us, investigative journalist in Zimbabwe, Hopewell Chinono. Really appreciate that. Moving on to other news.